All right, I think we're live. Sorry about that. I was copying the link here to send to old buddy Malt Muser on the side. I can't do it until I start the feed, unfortunately, but you get the idea of how it goes. This will give us a couple minutes just to get folks from the old feed to the new feed anyway. And let's get this going here. Okay, have that on the ready. Thanks so much for stopping by. I just did the short review of the Caol Ila 18 Peated, and wow, what a whiskey! A lost cause. Good to see you, man. I'm gonna have a little short monologue before I'll send Malt an invite afterward once I see him pop in and answer some of your guys' questions and have a little short discussion. Have you had this one yet, Lost Cause? I'm curious what you think. Anybody else too that joins, I'll probably have to ask again. Their Dram, I think, has not had this one from what I remember. Thanks for the like on Instagram there, Dram. And man, you have got to find this. It's not that hard to find from what I've gathered. It's not a pricey Dram either, comparatively to a lot of the other ones, especially the unpeated series. This one you can actually get, I think, for a bit less. Surprisingly, so I had to get a 70 centiliters, a 70 centiliter bottle, which really throws me off because it comes from across the big bay, we'll call it. But wow, what a treat! And this is a bottle that, man, if I could afford it, I would always have one of these around, especially if I knew I was going to have any guests. That's how good this one was. I was surprised, very surprised. So never had it, thinking about it soon. Yeah, it was a bit of a bonus. I'm gonna have me another pour, matter of fact, because it's a goodie. And you don't see it very often, surprisingly. I mean, I do see occasionally the 17 or the 15 unpeated along with the 12, and maybe like a Caden Heads, or Douglas Lang, or some independent bottling version of it, signatory, that kind of thing. You always see those Portishead on the side. Exclusive malts will have an Isla version. Usually, it's either Lagavulin or a Caol Ila, I think. But yeah, this one checks all the boxes, I have to say. You do have to be in the mood for not just one thing, though. If you are looking for like a peat bomb or a sherry bomb, or um, a nice light whiskey like a Dalwhinnie 15, of course, it's not going to check the boxes for you. But if you're like, wow, man, I want something that is, I can get a little vegetal, I can get a little floral, I can get a little bitterness, but I can also get a lot of sweetness. I can get a little smoke, a little peat, a little man, I mean, I can't think of anything it doesn't have. I mean, it even has a little bit of the sour lemon kind of thing going on, but it's all together and it all makes sense, even though there's 25 things going on at the same time. It's nuts. Daniel, good to see you. Jason, good to see you as well. John, Grants, Witchy Z, wow. Thank you so much. And there's Malt. I'm about to send you the invite here in a second. Does anybody have the Caol Ila 18? Let me know. It is peated, not the unpeated. I did a 17 unpeated short review recently, so check that out on the side if you haven't already. This is the 18-year-old peated version, which, man, it was something else in a good way. 4.75 out of 5, and I don't go that high normally. This was, and it pained me not to give it a perfect 5, and the only reason I didn't is the 43% versus 46, 48 would have been perfect. But let me send this for Malt, get him in here on the side. And anybody else? Meister French, good to see you. And yeah, thanks for doing the happy hour there, Malt. I just sent him an invite. He'll be here in a second. I always want to get my first clue. I haven't yet. Richie Z, man, you've got to get one. I would start with a 12 just to see if you like their base. If you like their base, you'll love this, because this is like 30,000 times better even than the 12. And the 12 is no joke. I mean, it's a good, steady Islay, peaty, briny, maritime malt of goodness. It's, it's pretty good. I see a malt. Give me 1 second. And then the 18 is but it's like 5 steps above it. It makes it look, I think, pale in comparison. Good to see you, Edward. It does chill filter and color, so that's the only downside to that. But could probably find it regularly. Don't see. Yeah, 12-year. Yeah, like I said, the 12-year and the independent bottlings are readily available. I'm surprised that Diageo doesn't push this like crack, because they could sell a boatload of it. Let me get malt in here 1 second. There you are, man. How you doing?
Jason, how are you?
I got you mid nose.
Yeah, man. I knew you were doing the Caol Ila 18, as you said. So I don't have the 18, but I did find some Caol Ila. I'm gonna join you for a little Caol Ila chat with. I'm doing this. It's a Berry Brothers and Rudd cask strength 11-year-old.
Oh, nice.
Caol Ila. Yeah, so it should be good. But how are you, man? Nice to see you. Another week.
Yeah, pretty decent. My order finally came in. It took forever, and I was kind of afraid they weren't going to get it here even for this show. But thankfully, it popped up a couple of days ago on the doorstep. So,
good deal, man.
How about you? Anything come in recently that I know you just put a really nice order in recently. That's probably going to take a little while to get there, isn't it?
Yeah, I've actually got since we talked last, I did get some new stuff. I got, which I was just chatting about on my little pre-show happy hour session. I just got this. It's a Bruichladdich. It's a 200 CL bottle.
Yeah.
It's a 10-year-old Manzanilla cask. It's 55.1%. Really, really good.
I bet that's lovely, man.
Oh yeah.
The Manzanilla. I think that I've had that was a Marsala. I'm thinking of. I think. Never mind. They have a Marsala cask that's a 13-year I had before. It was really good. It's a lot of marzipan on it.
Yeah, man. They do a lot of these wine finishes. They're so hard to get in the States. It's a bummer.
Yeah.
It was easier to find. I also got this. This is the Glengoyne Teapot Dram.
I bet you'll like that a lot, man.
Yeah, I'm excited to try to get into this. I know this is supposed to like almost 59.9%. And then I got another. What else did I get? I got this too.
And that's the way to go with Glengoyne. If no one knows, they're usually thin on their mouth coats, but if you get that higher ABV, it's the way to go on Glengoyne, I think.
Yeah.
Ooh.
21.
Oh man, that's the beast right there. I'd love to sink my teeth into that. Yeah,
this should be pretty fun. This is like the new one. I know that they used to do a 21. And they stopped. So this is a new one.
It was a while back. They stopped the 21, I think, for a little while before they brought it back recently. I'm really interested in see what you think about that, because if you like it a lot, I might definitely try to get something for myself.
Yeah, and that might be one we could, as we continue doing our weekly show stuff, we can kind of swap some samples once all this stuff gets through. But what did you get in the last week?
Yeah, guys, I was going to say, we were talking a little bit before the show that we were going to try to synchronize some bottles. It's just tough with this COVID insanity going on for us to get to any stores to do salsa swaps and things like that. But we're going to try our best to figure out something. But give us a few weeks at least to get our heads together on getting a couple bottles at the same time, because we both have great taste, but unfortunately we both have different avenues that we buy stuff, and we are just coordinating a little bit more. And if you guys want to, and one thing I forgot to talk about last time we were doing the show is if you want to get our attention, and I might have to depend on Malt because I don't see the chat the same way, but put an @ symbol like Daniel just did with Malt Muser. Put it for Telex so that way Malt might see it and I can respond, because I have a hard time seeing the chat comments on the side sometimes. But no, thank you so much for coming. What was you asking me? Sorry about that.
Yeah, I figured it'd be a good way to start off our chat is just see if you've got anything new in the last week. And, what'd you get?
Yeah, it popped up in this one, of course, tonight. Also have the Bruichladdich Untitled which is a travel retail exclusive. Usually, you can't get it overseas. It's a nice big 1 liter bottle.
Oh, nice.
I won't go into details just yet. I did take a sneak peek, and we'll get into maybe I'm not sure about next show or not, because we are going to try to time something if we can, if I can get my hands on a certain bottle. If not, we might have to do a Bunnahaven show where he does a Bunnahaven, I do a Bunnahaven, that kind of thing. So that's kind of plan B if I can't get my hands on anything beforehand. Because I think you were talking about a nice Bunnahaven you wanted to do, right?
Yeah, well,
maybe the one you just popped out there.
Yeah, that might be a good one to spend a little bit more time about.
I forgot to tell you, one another order I just put in was for the Kilhoman Cool Point, which will be a really interesting one. You don't see that one hardly at all.
Yeah, no, the green box, right?
I think so. I have never seen it, and they did have at least one. They might have like 2 left. I'll have to look and see. It was either international or it was exchange. It was one of the 2 that had it, and the other one was a let's see, it was a Kilhoman. Oh, and the Mortlock 15 Six Kingdoms, the last GOT bottle that I needed to complete the series of tastes.
Oh, right on! You have all the Game of Thrones.
This will be the final one. I don't count the White Walker bullshit.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just going with like the Cardew, the Singleton, the Dalwhinnie, those in the regular reign, and even the Oban I snatched. So I've got the 8, but I need that 9th one to make it feel more complete. But I'll probably end up still trying to get my hands on like a Mortlock 18 or 20 just to see what their higher end line is. The problem is it's so damn expensive.
Yeah, I've actually never had Mortlock before. I recently got a bottle of the Mortlock 12 Wee Witchy, which I found at a competitive price. It was like sub 60.
Nice.
And so I grabbed it. I haven't got it to it yet. I've been I kind of, once the COVID thing hit, I kind of splurged and bought a bunch of stuff. And so I just have a whole bunch of crap sitting around. Well, definitely not crap, but
When you say Wee Witchy, is that the new Mortlock 12 bottle?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
okay. That sounded familiar. And I just remember when you said that not only do they have a new line where they have a 12, I think they have like a 15 and 18 and a 20. They also give them these like weird little names afterward to, I guess, differentiate the 4 or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'd have to get my hands on maybe we'll have a Mortlock night when I get that Mortlock one, hopefully.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
That's the way we should probably do it, because it's going to be hard for us to get the exact same bottle. But if you and I touch the same,
whenever.
Exactly. Yeah.
Tuesday night whiskey hours, not bad. And we've had some really good chats the last few weeks. We got folks here, and everybody's having a good time. So I hope we can live up to the expectations.
Oh yeah, no, thankfully you and I have pretty damn good taste. So it's like, how could they go wrong, right?
This is gonna be the place to be, y'all.
And even though we don't have the same exact palates, I think we both can find, between the 2 of us, I know we could find the good and the bad out of just about any whiskey that we touch, at least.
Yeah, speaking of, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that Caol Ila 18. That's the peated one, right?
Yeah, man. This one, I'll go through some of my notes real fast just to give you a quick. Let me know what if you got something different that I don't mention. I did get a lot, and this is one of my favorite whiskeys I've ever had. No joke. It was up there. It was a lot of refined smoke on the nose.
Yep.
I'll get into the detail of that later, but coffee, some cocoa tones, lemons and orange gumdrops with some barley and maritime notes with some marigolds, like a floral deal on the nose too. Mm. Got some really heavy oak on the first part of the palate, but I also got like nice vegetal piney notes to come in there. Some peat smoke and some silky, both milk and dark chocolate, some toffee. And even though it's a light mouth coat, I got some like nice marshmallow notes and nutmeg and hazelnuts.
Yeah. Yeah, those are some really great notes. I went back and revisited I did a review of this one back in November of 2019.
Wow. Okay.
And you hit the nail on the head with the floral notes for sure. I got the floral, but what I didn't hear you mention, which I actually got prominently on the nose, was tropical fruit.
Oh,
I got a lot of like it was like pineapple mango. I got just a ton. I mean, there was the citrus and the tropical fruit, which is something that, quite honestly, I didn't expect. I wish I could go back and try more of it.
No,
I
hear
only
you,
had a small amount of it, and you spent a little time with it. But
do you remember how much they chopped your arm off to get it? Do you remember how much it ran you?
So it was actually sent to me by a guy from Distiller who you know very well, Lee Evolved.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, yeah.
He sent me a box a while back, and I need to get back in touch with him because we were going to swap some samples. And yeah, he sent me a sample of the Caol Ila 18, and yeah, I enjoyed it quite a bit.
If you hear from him, let me know, because a while back, the Scotch group that we, with Generously Paul, the Evolve, Prene, Scott E, those four, I touched base with Paul and Prene and Scott recently, but Lee hasn't been heard from for a long time that I know of. So,
oh, really?
Yeah,
he's one of the most prolific bloggers on the Distiller site for sure. Reading his reviews was like instrumental in like me learning a lot about Scotch. And then, I didn't know he hasn't been on there as much anymore.
Yeah, I haven't seen him, and I'm hoping that it's nothing health related. I know his dad was still around up in West Virginia, and he lives in Richmond, Virginia, not too far from any of us. And he would go and visit, so I'm hoping that his dad's okay. But I haven't heard any news, for the better or worse. So let me know if you hear anything.
Shout out to Lee out there in the world. Hope you're doing well.
Aquaman, we love you.
Alonzo, buddy.
Oh man, I don't know what, like, I love the guy to death, and I think he is one of the best whiskey like taster note takers that I've met. The only thing that kills me is he will not put a drop on a dram, no matter what it is.
Oh, really?
That's why I call him Aquaman, because he's so anti-water.
Wow, that seems, I don't know, man. I with the amount of difference just a drop of water can make on a whiskey, I don't know. For me, I always have to try it with water.
Yeah, it's like, what do you have to lose? I mean, even if it's 40%, you take your eyedropper out or your whatever you can, just get that one drop or two drops in there. That's all you got to do, and it makes the most difference in the world to me on, especially drams like the Dalmore King Alexander III, that kind of thing. Even at 40% with one or two drops, it makes it completely different. Which, I'm not saying I'm going to run out and buy any 40% whiskey, but you know what I mean. You got to make the money.
Yeah, for sure. So before we get back to the Caol Ila 18, I just saw somebody popped in and was asking us if we have thoughts on the new Ardbeg, the 5-year-old Wee Beastie, which has recently been making its way to market as part of their core range. Not sure if I haven't had it yet, and I haven't seen it, but have you came across that yet?
I have not seen it, only because I haven't been out and about. If I had to take a guess, the Petite Cellars might have it. It's a big might. I haven't talked to Tom that runs the show there in quite a while because of this whole COVID stuff. Yeah. I only was thinking, if I'm going to order something, what can I get that I normally can't get at, Petite Cellars? And that's why I went ahead and got the Caol Ila 18 and that Bunnahabhain an Clydach. But if I was at the store, that's the first thing I would look for, is that, because I'm thinking they're probably, I'm sure they're probably thinking, okay, we can compete with Lagavulin and some of these other guys when it comes to like the 10. It is a nice burst of peat comparatively like to the Lafroig 10, but Lagavulin 8 has got that more of a peat bite to it because it's a little younger. And I bet you that Ardbeg was thinking, how can we get something young out there that's pleasing to the peat heads that just want a straightforward in your face peat bite? And I bet you that's why they came up with it. I'd love to try it. Yeah,
I thought it was pretty. I mean, it's notable that they put the 5-year age statement on it. Like, they didn't even try and like NAS it, like,
thank God.
I was like, right on. Yeah. Short, I haven't seen it yet. I haven't had it. I definitely will seek it out. I mean, how can I not? I'm not sure. I think Telex, what Telex you're saying is probably exactly what it's going to be like. It's going to be one of these. It's just going to be a, in your face, heavy peat, not super complex or anything, but we got to give it a try for sure, man. We got to give it a try for sure. It's a new art bag, right?
Yeah,
We talked about this a few weeks ago. Like you and I can't really help ourselves. So.
Yeah, if you're like an Octomore fan or someone that's a pure peat head and you don't really need extra smoke or sherry involved with your dram, you're like a full volume kind of fan, like Holland Park's full volume, or like a Springbank local barley kind of guy. I think that's not the age or complexity, like you said, but I think they are shooting for that heavy pow in your mouth, something kind of like a Lefroy 10 cast strength without the extra 5 years.
Yeah, Dram Dude just popped in and said that it's going to be around a $40 bottle, so it's going to be right in that kind of low intro single malt range. For I think $40 is probably what I would expect.
My biggest question is, what's the ppm going to be on the phenol level? Is it going to be, because typically I think Ardbegs are usually around, I'm trying to remember, I think it's like 40-ish, which is not crazy peat, but it's not like low, in either. I think they're around 40 to 45, and I'm wondering if it's going to be like 70, 80, or if it's going to be, since the age isn't there, they're going to boost it up to like 100. I mean, it's not going to be Octomore level 169 or 200 and something or 300 even. But
that's interesting. Yeah, that actually brings up an interesting question, and I'm not sure where you land on this question, but you have, especially when you look at things like Octomore, which pride themselves as part of their marketing as like the most peated whiskey in the world and all of this. What's interesting about that is, I was on a live stream. I'm part of this group called the Philadelphia Whiskey Society, and the guy who runs it had a rep from Diageo on talking Lagavulin probably about a month ago. And the conversation about PPMs came up, and her point was that, from what she learned and what she knows is like after a certain level, I mean, basically when you're in the human taste buds can't actually really detect more after like 30 or 40. And I thought that was a really interesting thing because honestly, I think the maturation plays a lot of role in how intense it is. But I also feel like I still think Lefroy is smokier than the Octomore that I had. And the Octomore was 8 times more peated. But I'm telling you, I think there's just something about the style of distillation and the maturation that makes it, and again, you just really don't notice after a certain level. I don't know what you think about that, but it's something that I've heard that it might not be as much as we think it is. And that,
I think it depends on how you approach the peat smoke. Because when I first started, I thought of it as one thing, but then over time, I recognized it as being completely separate, but yet they're almost like cousins of each other. Like the peat definitely will give you a smokiness somewhat, but the peat is more of the effervescent bite of it minus the smoke. It's like the almost like the intense barley flavor of it. I'm not sure how to explain it, because like you said, a Octomore is not necessarily a smoky Scotch, but it is a heavily. I can detect the peat, but it doesn't taste like smoke. It's more like a real heavy. Oh man, not heavy, but bright, super bright grain in your face. You know what I'm trying to say.
Exactly what you're talking about, and yeah, you hit the nail on the head that it's not just peat, or it's not just smoke, but I think because
haven't you had some whiskeys that were definitely not peated, but you still got a lot of smoke out of it sometimes?
Ooh, that's a good question.
They do happen, and it's rare. One recently, I wish I could remember which one it was, because I was surprised that it had a real heavy smoke flavor to it, but it was definitely not peated. But
yeah, I think you're right on that. And for me, the Octomores are just a little bit out of my price range, to be completely honest. But I liked it enough. I just remember thinking
which one was it? Do you remember?
Boy, 7.1.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe. I'm not even sure. I'd have to look back. I could probably find out. But long story short, I felt that that I know what you mean about that peated intensity. It's it's on the palate, right? You really notice it more even on the palate. The smoke, I get much more in the nose. And I just felt like
Yeah.
I really couldn't tell you if you poured those into two blind glasses, Lafroig 10 and an Octomore, and asked me like which was like quote more peated or more intense. I don't think I'd notice that much of a difference. I think it's just because of again, like I just think after a certain point, you can't really pick up more ppms than you actually can at one time, so it's like
maybe not on the smoke side, but on the peat side, like just purely thinking about peat without the smokiness of it, I think you can, but it depends on, I think, the level. Like you said, until you get to I think the 7.3 was the bottle that was around 169 ppm, if I remember correctly. And the 7.1, I think, is comparable to that. I think all they did was they took the 7.1 stuff, which is, like you said, more of a just straightforward peat. The 7.2 is the French Syrah, and the 7.3 is that Ribeira del Duero cask deal. The but when, like, I guess I think I see what she's saying. If you're going from like 50-ish or 40-ish versus like 100 or so,
right?
Once you get up to like way up there, like the 200s, close to that range, I'd be surprised if you didn't notice the difference if I blind tasted you somehow. But we'd have to have
fun to do sometime. I mean, like it would, the way to do it would be to do an Octomore and like Port Charlotte.
Yeah, that's a good comparison.
See what difference you notice. I mean, obviously there's other variables, but
I guess that's the thing. But Port Charlotte is a heavier. It's not as heavy as Octomore, but it's like right underneath of the Octomore range before you get to their basic, like their classic laddie and some of that stuff, maybe. But I see what you're saying. That'd be a good. Anybody else? What do you guys think as far as like? Can you tell a big difference between a heavy peat like above 150 ppm versus a 40 to 50 ppm like an Ardbeg 10? Like if I blindfolded and gave you Ardbeg 10 and I gave you Octomore 7.1, would you be able to tell the difference? I'm just curious what you guys think too, because I thought you could, but I've never done it that way. So it's a good question to bring up at least.
Yeah. Going back on the Ardbeg thing for just a sec, Ben Demon Hunter said the Ardbeg core range is only 4, correct? The 10, Anno, Ugadal, and Corey Vrecken.
Correct.
And now the Wee Beastie. But is the Ardbeg 19 core range?
It is not. That is what you would consider like they every once in a while, like every 2 or 3 years, they'll release somewhere between a 17 and a 19 or 20. They'll 21. They'll have a mid range, but they don't have it all the time. Like they had a 17 for a while. I guess they ran out of that, and then they brought out the 21 for a while. And I think they still have it, or they might have just went to the 20-something, which is the 23, 22-year stuff.
Yeah.
They do have
coming out with the 25 this year.
Oh, really? See, I think it's just depending on what they have a lot of, and it seems like they're getting more of a gap between their 10. They don't have a 15. That's kind of like all their NES specialty things. I think are in a 2 or 3 years in different casts. But yeah, the 17 to the 23, I think that's becoming a bigger gap where they're going to have the 19 to 25. Their NASs they typically have once per year in just the core. That's my guess. I moved all my stuff down here. I had my Ardbegs up there, and I was running out of room, and I still can't put 2 committee releases down here because I ran out of room. But I moved all the Lafroig stuff up there because I had a few that I was going that way with, but I'm kind of moving things around.
Yeah. So how's that? So how's the 18 still treating you now that it's had some oxygen? What is the ABV on that, by the way?
I always leave it out for a good 18 minutes before, but it's still great. This is only 43, but it does not taste like a 43% whiskey by any means. It doesn't taste hot. It's not like, pow, but it definitely, if you blind tested me, I probably would have guessed this is a 46. So that, gives you a little room, but I wish it was 48. That would have gave it a 5.0 out of.
Yeah.
Seriously, I would have gave this a 5. This would have been the first 5-star whiskey I've ever rated, I think.
Wow. So looking back, my final on that was a 3.5, which was, I did last year. I reviewed an 18-year-old whiskey as the first review I posted of every month, and so yeah, I think that one was November. Yeah, I really I liked it.
Besides the ABV, was there anything else that kind of?
Well, so it's interesting, and I would love to revisit it. It didn't. So for me, on my scale, I mean, and I know we both, a good thing for us doing this show every week is we both basically use the same scale. For me, it just 4 for me is must buy range.
Yeah.
4 to 5 is must buy. 3 to 4 is you need to try this for sure, or grab a bottle if you find it at a good price. And yeah, it didn't do quite enough for me to put it up to that. You need to have.
Oh man.
But
I'm surprised, but you probably just need a little more.
So conversely, yeah, right. Conversely, this Cask Strength Berry Brothers and Red 11 Caol Ila has changed my feelings about Caol Ila. Caol Ila has been one of those distilleries that I kind of wasn't that into. And I have the 12, and it was okay. When I thought about Islay peated scotches, Caol Ila's probably at the bottom of other than Beaumont.
Wow.
For me, it's Lefroy, Kilchoman, Ardbeg, and Lagavulin are kind of in a thing of their own. And then there's Bunnahabhain, but they're not always peated. And then it's okay, Caol Ila, and then Beaumont is kind of at the bottom. And so,
yeah, I don't disagree with you there. I kind of felt that. I mean, I did like the 12 somewhat because for the briny maritime stuff.
Yeah,
kind of Talisker-esque, but
I'll tell you, it's turned me around. Obviously, this is a cask strength. What I really am loving about Caol Ila, and what I didn't notice, it's not just the citrus note; it's the type of the citrus. It's this creamy citrus. I get it's like a lemon meringue pie type thing. I get on a lot of Caol Ila. I like their it's effervescent. It's got that sweet, sugary, tangy citrus thing, and I get it in spades on this one, man.
Is that one peated?
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's the peat you're actually getting. Also, is that when you talk about that effervescence, that's the real peat level you're hitting, not the smoke. To me, that it's not really the smokiness; it's that bright smack on the palate right from the get go.
Yeah, I'm curious if you pick up the lemon note too. I mean, I get a huge lemon note on this.
Yeah, any Caol Ila that I've ever touched, even with this one, it's thankfully not as prevalent in here. You do get a lot on the basic 12. There's a lot of lemon, seashells. Mm-hmm. It's a kind of an earthier peat than Lefroy's got that hospital bandage and a septic peat. This is more of a vegetal, earthy peat. Yeah, and I think that's the reason why it turns off some people, because it does have a bit of mushroom gravy almost to the peat.
That's interesting. The vegetal's right. I didn't think about the mushroom note to it, but yeah, there definitely, it has that vegetal, almost slightly herbalness to it. Yeah, good stuff. I'm glad you're enjoying the 18s. What did you end up with your final score on that one?
But this one, I think, this one changed my mind. I was like you, where I thought the Lefroigs, the Bunnahabhains, the Kilchomans, and the Lagavulins are kind of all in their upper echelon of the Islay formation. In the 12, the Milk even was decent, but it's even more vegetal, believe it or not. So that's kind of you got to be in the mood for that. But this one was so good to me. I gave it a 4.75 out of 5.
Nice.
And I really like it a lot, even without the heavy mouth coat or the ABV. If it had that, I would have gave it a 5. That's the only thing I could find. That I guess I was lucky to be able to pull out maybe some extra stuff on the side. But I think it's because it had so much stuff that balanced well, like the vegetal, the florals, the peat, the smoke, the citrus. I mean, with the marshmallow, everything that came together. I mean, I couldn't think of anything that was missing from it. That I wish, I wish it had some peat, or I wish it had some smoke, or I wish it had something. I just couldn't think of anything besides maybe sherry that it lacked. The refill mix of casks, though, kind of threw me off, where they were using the more tarred casks. But I think they were doing it because the woody notes are not as bad as it would have been if they used a bunch of first fill / new casks. But I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. I'm curious. Have you had any of the? Have you? I mean, Caol Ila has a lot of independent bottlings. Have you had any Caol Ila independents?
A couple, and they all have been good. I've done the ones I've done are the Chapter 7. Have you heard of those guys?
No.
Chapter is it 7? I think it's Chapter 7. That's an independent bottling company. I think that's reminiscent of the Portishead guys. And I've had
Oh, okay.
Portishead, which does Caol Ila, as they're basically taking Caol Ila casks and doing their own bottlings of them. The stuff that John Glazer's done with Compass Box that's used Caol Ila I've liked too. So I've had a little bit of everything, and I think the independent bottling stuff is really good too. I wish I had more of the cast strength stuff. I have not had, so that's why I was really interested to hear what you thought about that one.
Oh yeah. I think I reviewed this a few weeks ago. This was a 4 out of 5 for me.
Nice.
Honestly, and I'm starting to already think about my, what might make it into my top 5 whiskeys of the year. I'm telling you, this one is probably getting real close to it. And the thing about this, I got this at Total Wine in Jersey. This was $4 cheaper than the Caol Ila 12 distillery release. This was
wow.
$58. I wish there was 2 left. I wish I would have bought both. I just wasn't sure because of what we were just talking about. I'm like, I don't know, Caol Ila. Should I get a Caol Ila? Okay, I'll roll the dice on this because I kept walking by. They had a bunch of these Berry Brothers and Rudd independent bottlings and stuff.
I'll be honest with you. I haven't had a good. I mean, I've had maybe one good one by them, but I've tried them a couple times and I haven't really been lucky. I'm glad you got lucky by that one.
Yeah, I'm not, kind of where I'm at in my journey. I've been just kind of getting into trying independent bottlings now. And this was one of the first ones I bought. And man, yeah, it's killer. It's totally killer.
Thank goodness. 'Cause I think the reason, I don't think it was the bottler that was the issue. Like the Berry Brothers and Reds have been around for ages. I mean, they're like 1800s or something. I think it was just a bad distillery. I think it was like Strathmill or Strathcilia, one of those like off, distilleries that you always use in blends and that kind of thing. But
right.
I think someone asked the question, Malt Muser, aside from the smoke and peat, how does the Caol Ila 18 compare to the unpeated? Oh, wow.
I've not had the unpeated, unfortunately.
It's night and day difference because of the peat smoke, but they're really similar quality. And after the oxidation on the 17 unpeated, out of the gate, I thought that the 17 unpeated was very olivey and oily. I did not like it. I gave it like a 2.75. It was that bad. After oxidation, I gave it a 4.25. So it was a lot better after setting out, decanting it, whatever it takes to get,
Yeah.
So that was my take on it, at least. Sorry about that.
Man, broadly speaking, I was just like looking at this bottle and I'm thinking to myself, cask strength, unchill filtered, natural color, 55% 11-year-old Caol Ila for $58, or I pay $63.99 for the 43% 12-year-old. This was the bottle that has now got me getting a little more interested in independent bottlings because frankly, I just didn't know a lot about them. Right. I mean, I know I get what they are and conceptually, but I've never really, rolled the dice and bought anything. So since then I've picked up a few independent bottlings. I got a 21-year-old Ball Blair from
nice.
Gordon MacPhail.
What year is it? Do you know when it was released?
No, actually, I don't have it relatively close, but
okay.
I can tell you. I've got a bunch of like That Boutique Whiskey Company. I got a 14-year-old.
They're really good too.
I got a 15-year-old natural color unchill filtered Bowmore 15-year-old.
Nice.
Is really good compared to what you end up finding with other Bowmore
bottlings.
Right. But yeah, I just, it seems to me that the rule of thumb with a lot of these, and it's not true for all. So that Ball Blair 21 is only 43%, but you can get a lot of cask strength stuff.
Oh yeah. Exclusive Malts had, I'm not sure if Exclusive Malts does anything anymore, probably not, but they had a lot of nice cask strength stuff on the side.
Yeah.
I think that chapter 9 or chapter 7. I can't remember the chapter number. There's a chapter number. They do some cast strength stuff too, from what I remember. Old Particular was a good independent bottler.
Old Particular signatory.
Cadenheads.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
I'm gonna keep the peat rolling with a little Lacheg 10.
Oh, nice! I love that one too.
Yeah. This is a fly under the radar peated Scotch for folks who may or may not know about it. So word to the wise, if depending on where you guys are in your journeys, for folks in the chat, keep your eyes, like, spend a little extra time reading those labels on independent bottlings, because I'm telling you, a lot of shops will have a bunch of them, and you discover gems like cast strength 11-year-old Caol Ila.
They're much better priced too. Like I was lucky enough I brought it up to New York when I met the Scotch for Dummies in person a couple of years ago. I got a Highland Park cast strength 25-year-old exclusive malts. I got it for $225. Yeah. Yeah, I was like,
$225.
They had 2 bottles. I wish I had enough money to buy both of them, but I can only afford one. I was like, wow, it was great too. It was a hit when I brought it up.
Man, a cast strength 25-year-old Highland Park for $220.
And it's exclusive malts, and they're pretty good. They were a pretty good a blender. I think they got bought out by a Japanese distillery company.
Yeah, I tend to notice that, like, there are some distilleries have a lot more independent bottlings than others. You don't see a lot of independent Ardbegs. You don't see a lot of independent Lagavulins, but
for Lagavulin, the exclusive malts people did a lot of those. I was lucky enough to have a couple 8s that were a cast strength, really, really good. Keep your eye out for a Blackadder and a Delphi. Those are 2 really good independent bottlings too, I've heard. Yeah. My friend in DC, you know Tosh, Tibetan guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's a big whiskey guy. Met him. He was the one that told me where to get my stuff at the the ABC store in Virginia and Vienna to get the Kelpie and the committee releases out there.
Yeah, I remember that.
I ran into him, and he was a big fan of that.
I'll never forget that. You back when I lived in DC, you gave me the hot tip on that. You were like, hey, bro, they got 3 bottles left. I drove out to Vienna that Saturday, and they still had one left, and I grabbed that Grooves. It was the Grooves.
Oh, yeah. That's where I got the Grooves from, too. Yeah, this time I actually got the black at the Total Wine and More, which had it before Virginia this time. Threw me off completely.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I haven't...
I kept calling Virginia. I'm like, when are you guys going to get it? We're not sure. I call up Total Wine. They're like, yeah, we've got it. How many bottles do you have? Oh, we have a case. That's all they give us. We have like 6 or whatever, they come in. And I was like, ooh, 6? I wish I could afford all 6, but I'll just take one.
Yeah. Have you revisited the Ardbeg Black since you reviewed it? Have you been still sipping on it, or do you yeah.
Oh, dude.
One question. Second thing, have you gassed it?
There has to be some left to gas, my friend. That bit the bullet like long ago.
Yeah,
I go through it pretty quickly. If I open something, especially if I like it, if it lasts more than a week or 2, I'd be surprised.
Stephen Connor's in the house. What's up, Stephen? Nice to see you, man. Happy Tuesday.
Yeah, we just had a nice little. He had a nice little tasting a couple days ago, man. If I'm going to give you a tip, and anybody watching, this was the belle of the ball. Out of the 4 that we sat down and tasted, there was this one that was a Glendronach, which blew my mind because this does not taste like a Glendronach at all to me. It was a PX cask, but it didn't taste like sherry. It tastes more like a Ball Blair, like a really great Speyside. It was only 11 years, but it tasted like it was a 21-year-old whiskey. It was crazy. It was a higher ABV. It was like 50.
Wow.
No, it was 60% ABV. Look for a Glendronach. Trying to think. Steven, put the information in the chat if you don't mind. That one is unbelievably good. It was like just a one-off cask, 2007, I think it was 11-year-old, single cask, 2007, and it wasn't like over $200 either. So it was reasonably priced, And
Really? Nice.
I would love to have
It's hard to find Glendronachs at reasonable prices these days.
I would take 3 or 4 bottles in a heartbeat if I had that stuff, man. It was that good. We also had a couple of good ones.
You mentioned that once you open things, we can pick this up once you finish. But you mentioned that once you open things, you tend to drink fast. Do you open all? I mean, do you open all of your stuff right away? I know, like, this is a conversation a lot of folks go back and forth on. That, like, some people have, they buy a bunch of bottles, but they don't open them right away. Some people open them all right away. Do you open all yours right away?
No, I'll give you kind of a rundown of, and I don't have a whole lot left because of this whole COVID stuff. I've been home a lot more than I usually am. That Ardbeg 19, that Trevon, I don't have that opened at all. Yeah. I've got an unopened Lagavulin 18 Fischl. That's
wow.
itching to, a Lafroig 18. I've had it before, but I do have an unopened bottle of Lafroig 18.
How many bottles do you have total?
Of unopened, just one, two. Well, unopened, I've only got about 6 that are unopened, and the ones that I have opened are about 11. So nothing crazy, but I mean, I was talking to one of these guys. They had like 3, like I think it was like 100 open bottles out of like 300. I'm like, that's crazy, man. I could never accumulate that much. That's nuts.
Yeah, I think I have. I mean, I have close to 160 now, which is, say what you will about that, but
that are open.
No, just total. I think open I have probably 40.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's still pretty good. Yeah. I was getting up there. I had probably about 30-ish open at one point, but without being able to go to the store or easily getting stuff, I was my stockpile was slowly going down. So.
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure.
I'm down to the heels on a lot of these. I mentioned a few to you earlier, talking about like the Scapa Glazna or the Speyside 12 or the Tinnick 10. Things like that. So it's kind of like, I'm gonna do a review before I kill the bottle, but I do need to get a couple. What do you guys think I should get? Like, if I'm gonna get a next bottle, we talked about doing the Balvenie single, single cast 12. It's about $100. I mean, here at least, it's probably on the high end.
Wow.
I wonder what the normal price for that Balvenie 12 first fill is. If anybody knows,
I think it's like in that 80 to 100 range.
Okay,
that's about where it costs. You don't find it much cheaper than $80 most of the time. It's a good pour. I think that was a 4 out of 5 whiskey for me when I did when I reviewed that. I mean, I reviewed that probably about 8 months ago. I don't even remember. That's a good bottle, man.
We're talking about doing that one maybe next week if I can get my hands on it. Other than that, what would you guys like me to get? Because I'm looking to get like a couple good ones. I can't go too crazy, but I could get maybe a couple decent ones. So I'm definitely all ears on any recommendations on what we could snag. Yeah, even Steven said that it didn't remind him of a Glendronach at all at first either. It tasted more like a Bobler or like a really good, at least a 15 to 18-year-old, really nicely done Speyside. It had all the fruits that you wanted. It had even some like marshmallow and some like light florals in there. And it was well rounded. It had that 60% ABV, and it didn't taste hot. I thought it tasted more like a 48%. I was surprised how hot it was. So that was a tasty one. What would you get now, Malt, if you were in my shoes as far as a couple bottles? If you
knowing your palate, boy.
I'm open to pretty much anything too. I mean, I usually stick.
Give me a couple minutes to
yeah.
Oh, let me give me a couple minutes to think on that. But there's a few that come to mind that I think I'm not sure if you've had yet, but I would recommend. Give me a few minutes to think.
And you guys can in the chat too if you.
Yeah, definitely. A couple. Glenallachie 15.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that one. I have not had that one yet.
The Glenallachie 15, Oloroso PX. It is basically exactly, I don't know about the ratios of Oloroso to PX, but in other words, it's similar to the much loved Glendronach 15 Revival.
Gotcha.
And but the difference is you can get that Glenallachie 15 for like $75.
Wow.
Yeah, so keep your eyes peeled for that. It just came out on the U.S. market, I want to say a month ago.
Okay.
46% non-chill natural. Good bottle.
Oh, wow.
I think you'd enjoy it. It's got a good. It's a little bit spicier and louder than the Glendronach 15. It's a good pour. I don't know if it's quite as, I didn't do any comparison between the two, but off the top of my head, is it as good as the Revival?
Kind of
Maybe not.
iffy, yeah.
But
It's
it's
still,
right
I
up
mean,
there.
you hit all the check boxes. You got 15 years. You got 46% ABV.
Yeah.
You got no chill filtering. You got no coloring. It's Oloroso and PX. It's like, how is that not good?
Yeah, and it definitely is. It definitely is.
If I ever saw the Revival again, I probably would try to maybe snag that one even too. But that's another one that's on the possibility list because I do like Glendronach and they're 8. Have you ever had the Highland 8 before? The Glendronach? It's not usually seen now, unfortunately. I think they sold a boatload of it because it was that good. But if you ever find the Glendronach 8 Highland, the HIELAN, that's a really, really good bottle for like $55-$60. And I think that's why they probably don't have much more of it because it was such a great price and sold like hotcakes. I brought it to not me, but Lee brought it. Lee Aval brought it to a whiskey expo tasting a couple years ago, where Paul and we all got it like a hotel and brought like a bunch of bottles, and it was one of the ones he brought, and I was like, wow, for such a young.
I remember that. I was going to join you guys. I remember that was the whiskey festival in DC, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh Jesus, man, you should have came to that.
I wish I would have. I couldn't swing it, unfortunately. God, I wish I would have.
It wasn't worth. Like, it's funny because at least I learned a lesson. The expo prices aren't worth the admission really to it, but if you could find 2 or 3 whiskey buddies and just meet up somewhere and bring 2 or 3 bottles, you can have your own whiskey expo and actually enjoy it without dealing with 15,000 people. I'm an introvert. I don't like dealing with a boatload of people anyway.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Speaking of Glendronach, do you have any? So the whole thing about the Glendronach aging stuff, right?
Yeah, that spreadsheet, the PDF that has all the weird like 15s or really 20s or whatever it is.
Yeah. So I actually we got really lucky. I have 2 bottles of Allardyce from 2019, which is the 24-year-old.
Oh man,
the ones coming out now go back to being straight 18.
Oh boo!
I have 2 of them that are minimum 24 years old. Once this COVID thing clears up, that might be a fun time to. I also have one that's from 2016, so it's a 19-year. So that might be a fun. We could follow you up with 2 samples of that. We could do a little side by side, see what happens.
That would be awesome. I have had the Allardyce and I've had the Parliament, but I don't know what the true ages of the juice I had were. I do have the Allardyce bottle here. I could probably look it up and see. I'll have to do that later. I don't have a Parliament bottle. I've had it like in the in tastings and samples and stuff, but
Parliament
that is on the radar.
So in the next 3 years, the Parliament, I think in 2022, the Parliament will be 26 years old, and then it'll go back to being 21. So a Parliament you buy now, if it's got the scan date of 2019, I think is a 23-year.
Wow. Yeah. I'll have to look for that.
Definitely. Like $230 now. I mean,
no wonder they're so high. Because there was a local place that sells the 18 for no joke, $189.
Yeah, man.
And the Parliament for like
regular price,
$240, I think. And I thought that was ridiculous until I realized, they're selling 25-year-old stuff in a 18 or 21-year-old package, and they're probably thinking, well, I can make a little extra for that reason. But most people don't even know what we're talking about. It's kind of sad.
It's a weird thing. So, in short, Glendronach was mothballed for a few years in the late 90s, early 2000s. So everything that was aged in there started getting put into and they didn't change the age statement on their bottles. So basically, like the 18-year-old now is actually an 18-year-old that was put in barrels prior to the mothballing. So in other words, if you get an 18-year-old that has a scan date on it of 2019, it had been sitting there for an additional 6 years. So the minimum age is 24 years on the Allardyce instead of 18. And now that the newest ones that'll come out in 2020 are going to be the newer, barrels. In other words, it'll be right back to 18 years. So the 2019 bottles are, if you're looking for like the quote oldest Allardyce you're ever going to be able to get, go to your shop, you see it on the shelf, pull the bottle out, look at the date, see what year is on it. If it's 2018, it's 25 years old, 2017, 24 years old, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
But if it's 2020, you're back in the 18 realm. So, and the Parliament is moving in that direction too. So the Parliament will peak, I think, in 2022. So right now, if you buy a Parliament, I believe if it's got a 2020 scan on it, it's 24 years old.
Yeah, I think most of these guys might know, but I just want to make sure that in case some of them didn't know what we were talking about. So it took me a while to get, when I looked at that spreadsheet, I had to get my head around it to understand all the differences of the years.
Yeah, and all that. It didn't quite make sense to me at all either. It took me a while to figure it out, but now that I know it, I was like, so the same thing happened with the 15 and the 12, of course, but we're well past the dates for those peaks. So at one point, I guess a Glendronach 12-year-old was 16 or 17 years old. But
when Ardbeg did that in the 90s, I wish I was on board with them at the time, because I probably would have tasted some really old stuff. Looks like Richie Z is asking, do you plan to get more Blendromics? Underrated Speyside distiller. Yes, they are. And I only have the Blendromic, the 10 Imperial proof, which is really great. Probably one of my favorite whiskeys.
You have the 10 Imperial? Nice.
Yeah, it's the cast strength really helps out on that one. The Peat Smoke 2006 I've had, it was really good too. I had it in a sample. If I was going to get a new bottle, I would get the 15. I'm thinking, unless they have an older version that's affordable.
Yep.
Do you know if they have the old ones or not? Or
I don't. I have two Benromics. I have the 15 and the organic.
Oh, the organic I'd like to try. What do you think about that one? Is it okay or?
Yeah, I like it. It's an NAS. I don't know if it's Distiller. Our favorite website has it up there at like a 95, which I thought was pretty high.
Wow.
I don't think it's a 90. They use a 100-point scale. For us, would that be a 4.5 or 5 whiskey?
Sounds like it would be, but I'm surprised being an NAS.
I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Does it remind you of like a Springbank local barley kind of thing? Is that what it's like, or Springbank green kind of thing, maybe?
More like the green than the local barley.
Okay.
But it's a good bottle. I mean, and it's a really good. It's got a good flavor. I think it's a better NAS. I mean, take what you want for like, this quote organic, whatever, local barley stuff. I don't know if the difference is really there, but as just a standalone NAS, it's a good whiskey. Better than most.
Yeah, it does make a big difference on the Springbank stuff, at least, like the green 13 or 12 or whatever versus like the local barley or the regular releases.
Right.
It definitely does have a more vegetal feel to it, to me, like a more earthy thing going on. Do you remember any vegetal or earthy notes from that?
Well, not earthy, more vegetal.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't have those dark aged flavors as much, but I mean, it's good. Would I say you should go out and buy a bottle? It's not that expensive. I mean, you can find it if you find it for sub 60, grab it. I wouldn't go more than $60 though, given alternatives. So another one, actually, speaking of whiskeys that, you were asking for recommendations. I know I mentioned the Glenallachie 15, Old Pulteney 15.
Oh yeah. The new one is good. If you sit down, I'm not sure if you've had an opportunity yet. I only had one because of a tasting expo deal. The old 17 and 21 versus the new 12, 15, 18. I really only liked the new 15. I really didn't get into the new 18 that much. What do you think?
Yeah, I've heard mixed reviews about the newer Old Pulteneys. I think the 12 is still I think one of the better value picks in single malt. I mean, you can get a 12 for $40 still, and I think the Old Pulteney 12 is a great pour. The 15 is great. I've heard nothing but kind of, people weren't
things on 18
or the 21, but yeah, the old 17 and what was the other one? It was the 20
17.
Yeah, the 17. I've always heard great things about.
So
we're about to hit the. Go ahead.
You can still find the 17 and 21 if you're lucky. I know Petit Solar still has 17s for a reasonable price for like 120, 130 at the most, I think,
Yeah.
for the Old Polney 17, and that's the old one. The new one, yeah, the 15 I thought tasted like the old 17, but the 21 is just, I think unless you go to the 25, which is like really crazy prices, I think you're missing out on the, the old 21, and to me that's just too crazy. If I ever get a new one, which I probably won't for a while, I'll probably just go for the 15 and call it a day.
Have you another one I'd recommend? And I know all of a sudden we're just talking. Everything seems to be in 15-year-olds that I'm recommending. Have you done the Glen Scotia 15?
Oh yeah, that's one of my favorite whiskeys. That's the black box back there. I heard that they have a new. I'm not sure if it took over their line because their old core used to be the double cask, which is kind of like their entry level, which I have not had yet. I want to try it though. The 15, which is like the old school great. Especially for the price being $65. I mean, you can't beat a 15-year-old.
That was my whiskey of the year last year.
And the Victoriana was the core. I think that they've
It's an 18 as well.
Yeah, I think they've added an 18, which is the bourbon cask, which I have had and it's good. I'm not sure if I like it as much as the 15, but I heard they have a new 16. I'm thinking the 16 is taking over the 15. But,
oh, really? Shit.
Yeah.
15.
But I'm hoping that the 16 is just a year older. If they kept the prices comparable and the same, that 16 might be badass actually. If it's just an older version of 15, if it's a whole new line and a 16-year-old version of it, then we've got maybe issues.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes out on that. Let me know if you ever
dig
up.
I definitely will. I noticed. I think they have a 21 too. I might be wrong about that, but. So I noticed we just hit the 1 hour mark, and I thought I'd share with everybody that, Telex and I have been chatting. We're going to continue to do a weekly show together every Tuesday night right after you do your reviews. So around 9:15 or so, we'll be hopping on to talk whiskey. Once this COVID stuff gets over with, we're going to swap samples, pick up bottles, do some live tastings. We'll continue to chat about distilleries, about stuff we're picking up, share our dumb 2 cents. I will also am going to be doing a 30-minute or so happy hour at 8:30 on my channel before I hop over here with Telex. So, we're hoping to keep this going and keep chatting with everybody. It's been a lot of fun over the last couple of weeks, and we kind of decided to make it an official thing this week. So do plan to join us on Tuesdays. Happy hour will be at 8:30, and then 9:15 range we'll be over here for our full chat. So. It's been a lot of fun and good times, Telex. This is a good
trip. Definitely. The DHS, Dustin, good to see you. He was saying that the Glen Scotia Victoriana was always a limited edition. Well, it might be somewhat of something that they might not have for more than a couple of years, but as far as their core line, like if you visit their site, it would always come up with the double cast, the 15, and the Victoriana. Was like the core at the time. This was like a year or two ago, and by now maybe they got rid of the Victoriana. Maybe they went with the 21. I'm not sure. I haven't looked at them in a while, but I did notice like that kind of shook me was the 16-year-old, and I'm thinking, hopefully that's just a new version of the 15 and nothing outside the box as far as messing with our beloved 15.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, the Glen Scotia 15 was such a quality pour and flies under the radar. And if folks haven't had it, they should try it. The Victoriana is also really, really good. It's an NAS, but it's like, over 50% ABV, I think. Freaking amazing pour. I just switched over to some, to the Kilchoman red wine cask finish.
Oh, I love that bottle, man. That was one of my favorite Kilchomans. Really? I'm a huge red wine cask fan.
I am
out of all their casks. I think that was like, and I love the original cask strength. I love the Loch Gorham and a lot of their stuff. But that red wine cask matured, man. That was like a 4.5 at least out of 5 for me. I thought it was badass.
So, my review of this will post next week or next Friday. All my reviews post on Fridays.
Don't spoil it then. Don't spoil it.
Let me just put it this way: it is not a 4.5.
Oh, are you going the other way? Are you going higher?
I'm not going too far the other way, but
okay.
I don't know if you and I would agree too much on this one, but
Okay.
yeah, that's what'll keep. That's what's going to make this fun each week. I'm sure you and I are going to run into things that we're both like way on other sides of the fence on, which of course makes it good.
That's cool. It's all subjective anyway.
Daniel was giving us some props that we make it about the chat and the whiskey. So yeah, cheers, Daniel.
Oh yeah.
That. French Keys, what is that, Mr. French? All about it.
Yeah, I'm not here for the fluff.
Yeah, no, me neither.
One thing I'm gonna open in your honor is something I picked up from my buddy Stephen Connor. I've had this once before at a tasting, and it was so damn good that I thought I've got to have a bottle. I just got to get one. And I'm not a big blender drinker. I don't like blends very much usually. Compass Box, I might kind of make an exception for. And the only reason I never got a bottle because I was afraid I was going to start a collection. Because once I start something, I have to like complete the set, if you know what I mean. I'm like the worst Pokemon player you'll ever meet because I have to collect them all. So this is the one that I had to pick up from.
Oh man, which one is that?
Oh, Phenomenology.
Ooh.
Yeah. This one is 46%. It's one of the first ones I think that they did. I can't remember what year it came from. Stephen Connor could probably talk more about the background on it, but it was such a good whiskey that, and not even a peated whiskey that I can remember. It was just well-rounded, high-end, like light whiskey, kind of comparable to the Holland Park Light. I'm not sure if you ever tried anything like that one before.
No, I haven't had that one, but is it like ex-bourbon?
Yeah, I think it's more geared toward that. If I had to take a guess, I'll have to look at some. They do have some information on it. It's funny they give you the and I'll get into that in a second. I just remembered they give you like a recipe, but they don't want you to look at it before you experience it, kind of thing. One good thing about John Glaser was that he was wouldn't hold back too much on the recipes to an extent. Like
he's you can learn pretty much everything you need to know about the Compass Box stuff. They're like Balvenie too, where some of the Balvenie tubes where it's literally like freaking 5-page paper written about their whiskey on it. I appreciate the way Compass Box presents their stuff.
Oh yeah, it's funny because they really give you a lot of details on the parts. Like I remember when I did the No Name, the first one, I was interested to see that they had Caol Ila and Ardbeg as like the peated stuff, but they also had a bunch of had a little minuscule of Dalgenwayne, which is one of those ones you use in blends usually, but they also had some other things to balance it out, like the Kleinleash as the thickener, which I thought was really cool. Let me see if I can find that.
What are your favorite Compass Box expressions that you've had?
This is definitely in a top 3. The No Name I actually enjoyed. I was not a big fan of the double single. I'm not a big fan of grain whiskey, so if I do start collecting these, I'll most likely try to hang out away from the grain if I can. Now, they do probably use some of it, but I think
this kind of the hedonism.
Yeah, the hedonism. Yeah, that one is one I've had before. It wasn't bad per se. It was actually one of the better grain whiskeys I've had, but it definitely wasn't like
it was the only single grain whiskey ever, or something, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It was much better than the Gravin, which is a grain distillery. I'm not a big fan of Gravin. Invergordon, Cameron Bridge, Cambus, those guys. North Britain, I think, is another one. I'm not a big fan of that kind of thing. This one is all malt whiskey, thankfully. And what they do with this, it looks like they do a recharred hogshead at 72%. From Glenlossie. So 72% is malt whiskey from Glenlossie. And then they go to and that's the recharred hogshead. Then they go to a first fill bourbon, which is a Tamdu. And then they go to, and that's 24.5%. Then they go to 2% of a Highland Park recharred hogshead.
Oh, wow. There's Highland Park in there.
And then they do a Talisker, 1% of a refill butt of Talisker. and then they finished it off with 0.5% of Caol Ila. Isn't that crazy? See, you got 0.5 Caol Ila, you've got 1% of Talisker, 2% Highland Park, 24.5% of Tamdu, and all the rest, 72%, is Glenlossie. Isn't that crazy? It's like, how does he come up with this shit? But I had a glass I would pour and definitely enjoy that on the side. It's been so long since I've had it.
I have not had that one. I think Compass boxes I've had the Hedonism, I've had the Peat Monster, I've had the Spice Tree, which is probably my favorite. I've had the Great King Street, the Glasgow and the Great Artist Blend, which I think are both great, like intro to sub $40 bottles. They're freaking fantastic for sub $40. One of them, the Glasgow, is like a sherry with a peat, and then the Great Artist is more of a bourbon. I'm trying to think. I have a Lost Blend.
Yeah,
that one was really solid. And then what other Compass box? I mean, I tasted an illegal Compass box once, which I could tell you about.
Awesome. Yeah, you got to tell me. You got to definitely.
Probably, I think I've said this before on one of my live streams, but so forgive me for folks who've heard it before. But this was about 4 months ago, and this guy Robin Robinson, who wrote this book called The Ultimate Whiskey Guide, came and spoke to the Philadelphia Whiskey Society, and as part of it, Robin Robinson's first gig was a rep for Compass Box when Compass Box was just becoming a thing. So this is 10 years ago or something. And so one day he's here on the eastern seaboard of the U.S. and he gets a message from Glazer's people that says, "We need you to go down to New Jersey. Here are the line numbers. We need you to pull all these bottles off and dispose of them." And he was like, "Why? What's up with that?" So it was the first run of Compass Box Hedonism, which is a single grain whiskey. But at the time, they were running it through lines at another place. And so what had been in the lines before hadn't been cleaned out. So they were all painted with Glenfarclas 25.
Wow.
These cases of whiskey were no longer legally single grain. They were blended grain. Or blended malt, or just blended whiskeys, right? Because you have a single malt and now a grain whiskey in it. So he went down there. He's telling the story. So he goes down there and finds the boxes with those line numbers. But he didn't destroy them. He kept them. And
man!
As part of we had a huge BYOB tasting afterwards, and as part of it, he brought one of these bottles of a Compass Box Hedonism the first edition that was tainted with Glenfarclas 25. Buried single malt, poured glasses for all of us, and so we all drank this illegal Compass Box Hedonism, and it was a super cool experience. He says he's still got 9 bottles left, but over the years, this is what he does, right? When he does his things, he brings these. I
got to be there for that tasting, man. I would kill for that.
If he ever comes by you, you got to check it out. But yeah, it was. According to the state and the regulations, it was an illegal whiskey. So he was he got a kick out of it, and yeah, we all got to try a compromised Compass Box Hedonism.
I haven't had the Spice Tree. That's one I need to get my hands on. That's one of the earlier ones too, isn't it?
Yeah, Spice Tree's great.
I have had the Great King, the King Street, the Glasgow, and the other one, the King Street one you talked about. I'm trying to remember some of the other ones. The double single didn't really do it for me. Unless Steven likes the phenomenology. The 3-year deluxe I haven't had. I'd like to try it. I'm not sure what the TINALW is. What is that? TINALW. Does that ring a bell?
No.
I have to look at that one again. The Flaming Heart's another one I need to try.
Oh, I've had the Flaming Heart too.
Do you like that one, or you remember that one?
I like the Flaming Heart, but I know that it changes. The batch variations on the Flaming Heart are apparently pretty significant. Where that certain years of it are not good, other years of it are good. I don't know. I've only had one. I don't recall which one it was.
Gotcha. Well, maybe it might have been 2015. You never know. That's I need to get my hands on at least a good version of that, not a luxury whiskey. I've heard of that one. That's got that really funky bottle with all the crazy text on it.
Yeah.
I remember. I've had some of their stuff and I liked it, but I haven't had a lot of it either. Like when I was up in New York visiting the dummies the first time, I got to meet John Glacier, and he had the story of the Spaniard bottle, which was that first.
Oh yeah,
one
yeah.
there. We actually went in New York and we went to that club, and it was a nice place. They had the really good whiskey selection. You could get a Bunnahabhain in a glass like you were or anywhere else. And they were talking about the first bottle of the story of the Spaniard. He had that, and then he also had the Spaniard, which is like the normal release of it. I think there's only 300 bottles of that first run, but it was good. It's funny, we were talking about quart tank, and when you were talking about pulling bottles, I thought you were gonna say that he found out that like 20% had quart tank in it, and he had to pull. He hates quart tank, man. I don't really mind it as much if I know what I'm in for, like, because I like a little funkiness sometimes on a whiskey. But as soon as he hit one that had quart tank at all in it, he was just like, take this away. It was because we had like 4 different things that we were going for, and one of them he was like, let's switch this out with a different bottle, and he was right. It definitely had a different. I don't know. The quart tank just has that funkiness to it. Have you ever had a bottle like that had like a lot of funk?
Oh, I mean, yeah, I've had bottles with the funk, but not that one specific.
Not a sulfuric funk, but like something off. Kind of like a real attic-y. You would think you're tasting like a 30-year whiskey, but it's only like an NAS or a 12 kind of thing.
Similar to that Bondronic you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, that's true. Oh man, this nose is insane.
That one flew under the radar. I'm gonna take a look how readily available that still is, but
it's limited edition, but I bet you could still find it. Before, like, the MSRP, I think was around 180. It was on the higher end of the spectrum when it came to the price, but I think you could probably find it for
right around that. Yeah, it's around that 180 range still. Yeah, it's still around. Is there an age on that?
There isn't, because it is a blended malt, Scotch whiskey. But I can tell you that it's definitely mostly Glenlossie. It's got a first full bourbon from Tamdu, which is 25%. It's got the Highland Park recharred hogshead. It's got the Talisker, and it's got the Caol Ila in it. And man, it's the nose is very fruity. Really almost like you had a great space side meets like a Japanese whiskey. It has that kind of feeling.
Oh wow, interesting.
Yeah, it reminds me of a Hibiki 17 kind of thing.
I've sadly not had the opportunity to get my hands on any of the age statement Hibikis, but
that's what the taste and the feel really reminds me a lot of a Hibiki 17. Not quite as maybe great in awesome as a 21, which I've only had once, but man, it was good. But the 17 is really close to this, which I think today, if you found a Hibiki 17, it'd probably cost you like crazy amounts, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, the Japanese whiskeys in general are like, most of them are stupidly priced at this point. The what's that one? The Japanese Harmony, the one that replaced the 12.
Yeah,
even that is like getting really, really overpriced.
Oh, is it? Do you know what it's running right?
I mean, I think it's getting close to that $80-$90 range. Which, I mean, probably 2 years ago, a year ago, that was like $60.
Exactly, like $60-$70. It's like, oh man, come on.
I mean, I have a bottle of it. I honestly, the bottle is beautiful. I'll probably use it as a decanter, but I don't think it's not one that I'm going to go rushing out to grab again. I don't think.
What's that one? Is it Yamakaze? Is that the big one that people like a lot? The 18, man. Yeah. I would love to get my hands on an 18, but I'm not spending $500 for it. There's no way.
Right. Yeah, it's really expensive for sure.
The funny thing is, there's this place down where Everwind, right?
No.
Everwind is a guy that's here on whiskey channels. Usually,
yeah. There might have been a couple. Yeah, I think I might have seen him in chats before, but I don't recall talking to him.
His real name is Chris, and he works at NASA down where I work. So we're both DC heads too. And every once in a while, before all this was going on, we would meet up for lunch once a week or so, and just shoot the shit. And the Yamazaki,
Yamazaki, yeah.
they have a city bar that's right next to us. That's just like a rooftop place you can go and get whiskeys, and they do have that one there. But I think the price for like a glass of it was like something crazy, like $60-$80 for a glass. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah, no thanks.
And none of the people down there are going to know what they're even drinking. That's the sad thing about it.
Oh, right. They're just going to buy it because they think it's expensive. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Lucky bastards. They have no idea what they're getting into.
Isn't it weird, like, if you think about it, like all the Macallans out there that people throw some crazy money down. And the sad thing is most of the people that can afford it can't even dig probably more than 3 or 4 notes out of it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's what kills me, dude.
I mean, that's also the reason that, there's so many subpar single malts that are the most sold things in the world. It's because it's just because, people buy stuff for motives that have nothing to do with taste. I mean, why do people buy Johnnie Walker Blue Label? It's not because it's like the best whiskey. It's because it's like a statement, it's a social statement. Social, it lets people know where you stand if you're drinking. I mean, like I remember I had never had it, and I was in Turkey, and this was 2 years ago, and booze was relatively cheap there. So I finally was like, I had a glass of Johnnie Walker Blue. I was like, it was $18 a glass or something. I was like, okay, I'm gonna finally do this. And it's a good whiskey, but it was like, you buy it because it's hyped in the media and hyped among people as like this prestigious bottle, right? But it's it's kind of tacky. It is what it is. But they make a shitload of money off of it because perception is reality, as Aldous Huxley and others would tell us.
Oh yeah, oh man, I used to bring out the Huxley. Brave New World, man. That's a great one. Yeah, isn't the blue like 180-ish, 190, somewhere in there?
Something like that.
You could get this for that price, man. I tell you what, if you had this taste, I never had the blue, to be honest with you. I've had the double black, the red. I don't even think I've had the green, which is sad.
No, you gotta get.
You're a big fan of the green, right? Have you ever had the Island green?
The green's the money shot.
Have you ever had the Island green? Because there was a difference between greens.
Man, I don't know what that is, man. Like that's dude, they have so many of these things out. I can't keep track of it. I've had the regular Johnnie Walker Green 15. I think it's the best thing in the range. It's $50 bottle. It's got smoke. It's 43% ABV. It's got, I think there's Caol Ila in that one, like a hefty amount. It's good. The other one, like I'm not gonna throw shade at this one. This is the 18. It's not as good as the 15. I paid probably $70 for this, and that was on sale. I think it's probably mostly more expensive than that. This one's 40%. It's good. It's a good pour. It's a lot of Cardew, Glenelgin, I think is what the box said. There's also smoke in it, and I can't tell what it is. It's probably Caol Ila or Talisker. Not as good as the green, I think, value-wise, but it's still a good pour. Like I don't have any hate for the Johnnie Walker 18.
If you get a chance, and Jason Coates is right, the Island Green is the travel retail version of the green.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you get a chance, give it a try. I think since you're already a fan of the regular green, there is a difference, and I forgot what the nuances are between the two. But just to give you kind of a different feel, you could probably order it online if you know what I mean, even if it's a travel retail. So you might be able to, hopefully for a decent price, hopefully you could find it, give it a try. Because I'm interested to see what you think about that. Because that's
that one?
Daniel is right. It shows how good Cardew can be if it's blended with the right stuff. And that's the thing about Cardew. I don't like it as a standard single malt, but I do like it when it's blended with other things.
I think the Johnnie Walker Green falls in that range of like whiskeys. I was talking about this earlier on my pre-show happy hour I was doing. Johnnie Walker Green is one of those that like fits perfectly in the I'm not really sure what I want to drink yet, so I just want to have something pours. I mean, it's like Highland Park 12 in that way. It's like it's the perfect one to just pour. It's good. It's a good pour. And I'm telling you, it's worth $50 for sure. I got to go get a water refill, so I'll let you catch up on the chat. I'll be back in just a couple minutes.
Sure, thanks, man. I appreciate it. I was going to go back to Daniel asked me about the Redskins hat. Yeah, sorry, man. It's funny. I am a Ravens fan mostly, but when I first moved to the area, I lived in D.C. in Arlington, Virginia for a while before I met with my wife, from like '99 to about 2006. In that period of time, living in Arlington, Virginia, I was a Redskins fan. So I still watch them when I get a chance. I still root for them if I get a chance. If they play the Ravens, I'm going to root for the Ravens just because I do live in Maryland now. But going back, there's only three teams that I've ever really liked, and that's the Bears. Growing up in Louisville, Kentucky, that was kind of like the team. Cubs for baseball. And then for when I moved to Oklahoma City for a while, there wasn't really any teams out there. I didn't have much to root for. They didn't even have the basketball team at the time when I lived out there in the 90s. And then I moved out to D.C., and that's when I became a Redskins fan for a while. And then moving up north, still watch the Nationals, still watch the Redskins, and love Capitals hockey. Still definitely my team for hockey. But with football, I'm more of a Ravens fan overall. I just like their style of football, and I hate the Steelers. Sorry, any Steelers fans out there. Can't stand them. Can't stand the Cowboys. Never will like them. Sorry. Just not my thing. And not a big fan of the Patriots either, so hopefully that doesn't like kill my my viewership out there. But it's just can't get into it. But there's the story behind the hat. I found it. It's like I've had this for a long time. I got this at a preseason game like, God, it's probably been like 13, 14 years ago, and I just didn't get a chance to really wear it a whole lot, and I found it like in my closet, and I'm like, hell, I got to dig that out. This is like a nice, it's a pretty nice hat. Glenmossy 21-year-old and Tamdu 15 on that bottle. That's most of the age to discuss. Yeah, I was surprised when I was looking at this recipe list they had. They didn't have the ages listed that I could see, but I'm not surprised that that's a 21, you say, and a 15 Tamdu. That makes sense. I mean, I definitely think it's definitely up there in age on that. Hey, Monk, good to see you back, man.
Hey, what's up, man?
Just talking about the Redskins hat. I threw them off with the Redskins hat. More of a Ravens fan, but you know how that goes.
Ravens fan, okay.
It's an oldie but goodie. I found it in my closet and I had to throw it on.
I didn't even notice. Yeah, that's funny. I'm a Packers fan, so we're on different sides of we're not even in the same conference, man.
Bears, man.
Bears. Come on, get out of here with that.
Dustin was talking about this being like a 21-year-old Glenmossy with a 15-year-old Tamdu, which I'm not surprised because most of it does seem like it's aged. I'm surprised 21 years. I mean, that's awfully aged.
You're talking about the phenomenology there?
Yeah, that's what he's, I think, going on about there. And I'm surprised that he could find that because I was looking all over the recipes, and it tells me, like, the type of cask and who it came from and the percentage, but it doesn't have any of the years in there. But I don't doubt him because let me see if there's another one here, because it does taste that complex and that refined. So
yeah, that's one I got to try. I was I don't think I've had a Compass box I didn't like, and so that's definitely a distillery I got to.
I'll try to hold you a sample. I'll definitely hold you a sample of it for you then on the side.
Right on. Yeah, I'd love to try it. It'd be cool.
Yeah, it's 46%, not chill filtered, no coloring, so that's a bonus point for them too.
For sure.
You won't get it online. You got to email them. Oh, okay, gotcha. He must have. Yeah, it's one thing I've heard, and I never tried to ask them more specifics, but. Dustin's right. If you send them like an email and say, "Hey, I'd like to know even more specifics that you're not giving out on your recipe," they'll actually tell you more details. Which I haven't tried that yet, but he said that HP is. Oh wow, the HP is 21, the Talisker is 21, and the Caol Ila is 11 years old. Wow, no wonder it's so damn good. That is crazy.
Oh, wow.
HP's
Yeah.
20. And then, I'm sorry, HP's 20, Talisker 21, and Caol Ila 11. Wow. That's a hell of a mix.
Yeah, for sure. Damn, I definitely feel like I got to try that one now for sure. That's right up my alley.
Steven's a Titans fan. It's funny. My best friend growing up in Kentucky ended up being a Titans fan. I'm like, no, can't go.
What are your I mean, so being in Kentucky, what are your baseball teams? Reds?
No, I was a Cubs fan growing up. The
Okay.
Bears and the Cubs.
Chicago area. I mean, Chicagoland somewhat probably extends down towards you. I would have thought maybe Cardinals or
Oh
Reds.
God, no. Mid '80s, man. It was the Bears and the Cubs in the mid '80s. Like
Oh,
Mets and the Cubs was like the big rival, and the Bears and I forgot who they were always fighting against in the '80s, but that was like the team for that area.
yeah, that's funny.
Can't stand the White Sox. Can't stand. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything against the Packers because my brother-in-law and sister-in-law are both big Packers fans, so I watch them too on the side.
Yeah, I definitely have. I mean, being a Brewers fan, I can't cheer too much for the Cubs.
Oh no, not the Brewers, dude.
Oh yeah,
You
oh yeah.
get that little guy that stands up there and he.
Bernie Brewer, man. Oh yeah, dude. I grew up on the Brewers, man, for sure, for sure.
Are you originally from Wisconsin?
Yeah, I grew up in Milwaukee.
Oh, okay, that's right. I was going to say I thought you were from Milwaukee.
Yeah, I lived in Milwaukee up until 2016, and then I moved to DC, and now I'm here in Philly.
I spent a lot of time in Madison. I had my best friend growing up in college ended up getting married and moving back to Madison, so I would go out and visit him and was there for like his bachelor party, things like that. And I miss Madison, man. That's like a beautiful part of the state, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, believe it or not, I lived in Wausau, which is north of that,
You lived in Wausau?
for 3 months.
What were you doing in Wausau?
Okay, I'll give you the Reader's Digest version. I moved from Louisville to Oklahoma to work for America Online back in the 90s and did really well there. It left and then thought, I need to get more credentials. So I got what's called the MCSE. It's in IT. And it's kind of like a souped up certification type of thing.
Sure.
So I went into hardcore engineering, and in my class, I met this girl, and I followed her. She had a degree to finish out at Georgetown, but she had to go work as like an internship up in Wausau before she went back to DC. And I'm like, what do I have to lose? What the hell? Screw it. So I followed her up to Wisconsin for a few months. And then I moved out to DC. We didn't actually end up working out. We actually got like close to being engaged. It was close, but things didn't work out. So I moved out, and many years later, I met my wife, and happy ever since. So there you go.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, man. I know all about Wausau.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I got family in Tomahawk, Wisconsin, which is about 35 minutes north on 51 from.
Oh man.
Oh yeah, man. I've been to Wausau more times than I can count. Yeah, for sure.
No air conditioning. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you people?
Yeah, man, at least you weren't up there during the winter.
True, but being there in the summer without air conditioning, I was like, that is crazy.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, man, I've been all over Wisconsin. I grew up there, and yeah, I love Madison. Like Madison is on the precipice of the driftless zone. So there's this part of Wisconsin that wasn't overrun with glaciers, and so literally, if you go west of Madison, Wisconsin, in that like southwest corner of the state, it's just hills and valleys, like freaking Hobbitville, man. You think you're in Lord of the Rings? It's unbelievable. It's a totally different landscape than the rest of the state and the rest of most of the country over there, for that matter. It's just relatively flat. It wasn't glaciated at all. Holy crowd. Jason Coates has family in Lake Tomahawk. Nice. Yeah, man. Tomahawk is just down the road from there. Yeah, that's northern Wisconsin. So Wausau is like the last outpost of like a relatively populated city before you get into what's called the North Woods, or if you're from Wisconsin, up north. And it's all like, fishing, lake country. There's more lakes up there than you can count.
Oh yeah, when we were together up there, we took a drive from Wausau. The first time we went up around the Great Lakes and went to Toronto and stayed for like a
Yeah.
week, and then we drove back through Windsor and Detroit and came up the South way, and so I got to go through like Upper Peninsula of Michigan and all that, and it was beautiful. And
Beautiful.
Canadians have different vegetation and stuff. It's really, once you get around the upper edge of Lake Superior, it's really crazy different. It's like Sudbury, and before you get to Toronto, it's pretty nice actually up there.
You went through Sault Ste. Marie?
Yeah, I went through the border, and I had this long conversation with this guy that was like a Torontoian, and he was like anti-Quebec, and he was like, "Man, I wish the United States would annex, Ontario so bad and all this stuff." And I'm like, "You really want the United States coming up here and taking over Ontario? That's crazy." But I could definitely feel the tension between the Quebec and Ontario. It's very weird, but. This is like around 2000,
I'm gonna keep going on my peat journey here with a little nightcap of the Ardbeg Corey Vrecken.
Corey Vrecken, I love it.
And, what a killer bottle!
That is so peppery, spicy, peaty goodness.
Oh man,
cherry and everything, man.
This is one of the most intense whiskeys I've ever had. I think I just posted my review on my channel of this. I think it's like a bunch of hornets just attack your tongue when you drink this. It's so freaking intense.
This one's 50. Is it 51 or 57?
57.1. Wow.
That's
they
great.
got rid of that little, they used to have this like swirly whirlpool thing on the label. Now they just have the straight Corey Vrecken label on it.
Oh, weird. I didn't even.
Yeah, you remember that? They had the little like whirlpool thing going on it.
Is it this one? Let me see if I think I've got maybe I got lucky enough to get an older version of the bottle. Is it like that?
Right. Yeah, look what it looks like now.
Damn. They don't do it anymore? That's sad, man.
Yeah, they got rid of it, man. Look.
Bastards. That's crazy.
This boring Corey Vrecken now.
57.1. At least they didn't lose the ABV.
Yeah, I think I gave this to my review video. Yeah, this is the last one I posted just last week. I gave it a 4 out of 5.
Oh, wow.
This whiskey's freaking awesome.
I found the price still in the box. It was $95.
Yeah,
I got lucky on that.
I got this one
honestly,
70.
Oh, you got really lucky because here usually it's 110. It's actually higher.
I remember the DC prices on it were silly. This one's always like $5 to $10 more than the Ukadal.
Yeah, that's about right. Because thankfully, typically the Ukadal I can get it for like $75, $80 if I'm lucky, if I do some homework. But yeah, sometimes you have to go with the 90s. But yeah, I've seen that thing as high as 110, 120. I'm like, I'm not saying it's not worth it, but my God, that's high for NAS.
110 is probably a little too much, but I still prefer the Ugi, but I love the Corey Vrecken. It's just, when I first had it was very early in my Scotch journey, and it was probably just too intense for me at the time. It was just overpowering. Now I feel like my palate's adjusted and I can actually enjoy it a little bit more, and it's a great pour.
Yeah, if you
like, it doesn't seem like they've gotten progressively younger or anything. I think it still is it's still got a nice body. It still has a nice long finish. Yeah, this is a good one.
Yeah, if you want the Hornets, definitely that's the bottle to get. The Ukadal is a little more refined, a little more cherry.
It's the virgin casks that give it that spice, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely. The Ukadal I love because it's I hate to use the word smooth, but it is a very smooth, chocolatey, cherry blend of cherry.
Ukadal with a nice New York strip steak is one of the best combinations you can.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's.
Now you got me wanting steak.
Dude, seriously, I did the steak with an Ukadal once, and I was like, I'm not a big meat eater, but I tried it, and I was like, holy cow. It was unbelievable. It complements it so well.
I don't usually do ratings on blends, but since we're just kind of here kicking around, I might actually. Wow, I mean, you get so much on the nose. It's unbelievable. Like I said, the fruits and the marshmallows and stuff. Confection sugar, like pixie sticks kind of thing. But wow, I used to get the cask. I mean, there's the barley still there. Some of the wood. I just love the fact that I mean, the only thing I wish it would be a little bit up at 50, 48, 50% would have been maybe a little better, but wow. For those ages, if Dustin's correct in those ages, I'm not surprised. But on one hand, on the other hand, I'm surprised at the price being as low at underneath 200, because for 20.
Yeah, if it's that old. I didn't realize it was that old. I can't keep up with all the Compass Box stuff that comes out, and if it's that old, that's like pushing 21-year-old whiskey for the most part. I feel like I got to grab that.
Yeah, you have to write in to get the ultra detailed recipe list. It sounds like, excuse me, but it's definitely worth it for 180. If you can get it under 200, I'd say pull the trigger. I wouldn't go like if it's getting to the point where it's secondary market where it's like 400 plus. I would say no, but definitely around 200 less. I would say definitely give it a go because it's definitely quality.
Yeah, that's good to know. I'm definitely gonna give that another look. That's just one I've never had before. So
I'm not normally one for marketing, but they do have the best artists that do their bottle, like their boxes. I mean, it's unbelievable the artwork that they do on the
their stuff reminds me the corollary of that with beer is Flying Dog.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Who does Ralph Steadman, the guy who used to do all the artwork for Hunter S. Thompson, does the art for Flying Dog, and they have this freaking awesome artwork on their bottles.
Yeah, he told me when I was talking to him who it was. I forgot the name. I'm sure it's readily out there available, but I was more into like why he used certain blends for certain things. Like I was always enamored by. I'm like, why do you use Kleinleach? Was my first question to him because I love Kleinleach. I wasn't asking him because I thought he was crazy. I was asking him because I wanted to know, the reasoning behind it, and because I thought it was like for like a foundation for like a. Trying to think how to explain it, like just a good base to add things to. He was like, well, you're not incorrect, but what I do use it for is as a thickener and that mouth coat, that meatiness that you get out of it. And I'm like, yeah, that makes complete sense to me, because if I was going to blend anything, I would start off with the Kleinleach 14 minimal, and I would add maybe, if I wanted peat, I would probably go to Caol Ila or Laphroaig or something like that, and something else for like the PX or La Rosso side of things. But
yeah,
oh man, it's so insane.
Yeah, and you got me thinking about it. I might have to look for a bottle of this.
If you see it, definitely I would consider it. Let me see.
You had any? So going back to Caol Ila for a sec, have you had any of the like distillery, those cask strength distillery only exclusive releases?
Oh man, cask strength exclusive distillery. No, I would love to try one. I know Steven. He made me feel like wow, like I was happy just to get the 18. He scored a 35-year-old Caol Ila distillery bottle recently. I was like, you got to be kidding me, man!
Wow,
35-year. I mean, I've heard of the 25, and I've heard of even a 30. I didn't even know they did a 35-year distillery bottle. That's how crazy old that shit is. I got to get the notes from him on that one. He needs to like do a little mini show or something.
Yeah, man. 35-year-old. Wow.
Could you imagine that? I mean, the 18's so good.
What's the oldest whiskey you've ever had, Telex?
I've heard that the 25 is actually not as good as the 18 from a couple people. I'm not sure how true that is. 35, I don't know. The oldest whiskey I've had is 50 years, actually. It was that Patiki whiskey that was a blend of but it was 50 years old from Prene distiller. When we were doing our rounds for different distilleries, he threw it in as like a bonus on the side. And it's funny because my wife doesn't like Scotch usually, but that one she actually enjoyed. I gave her a little sip of it just to see if she liked it. She's like, I do like the 50-year-old stuff. I'm like, you probably would.
Yeah.
Now I can use that against her though if I ever want to get like a 50-year-old.
Right.
This is the one you said was the best, remember?
50 years, man. Damn, that's amazing. The oldest I've had is the 41-year-old Canadian Club, which Food Quick sent me a sample of. Amazing. And then I think there was also like something else real close. It was like a 38-year-old JP Weisers or something like that. But yeah, I can't imagine a day where I'm going to have a 50-year-old whiskey sitting on my. I know there's like a Highland Park 50 out there somewhere.
Yeah, this is like a sample. I never had a bottle.
Bottles to the States. Maybe we should pool our money and get a bottle of it.
That was like samples. The oldest bottle I've ever bought was probably a 21, maybe. Well, the oldest, and it's not the best quality. We talked about the Glenfarclas 25. That's like the most affordable 25 you can get, but not the greatest example of one. But that's probably the oldest bottle that I could think of. That Enoch 24. That was an older one that was affordable.
Oh, yeah. That's a great pour.
The Parliament 21 I could pull off. I don't have my own bottle of that yet, but yeah, typically I think I'm going to start leaning towards 18 as a base. If I can pull off a 21 or older, I'll do it, but that's kind of like my new range.
That's about where I'm at too. Like recently I've bought Glengoyne 25. I have a couple, like I have a Lefroy 28, I have a Lefroy 25, Ball-Blair 1990, which is a 25.
Wow, man!
I have a Deanston Oloroso 20.
Oh man, but that's gorgeous too.
And and then this one that I just recently got, which is the Highland Park 21. So this is the one that I'm going to get you a sample of for sure. We'll definitely have to do a tasting of this because that I'm really excited about.
Yeah, all the ones you just mentioned, I'd be up for definitely trying.
Because I know the Enoch 24, but the Enoch 24 is like criminally underpriced. Oh, the only other ones that I have that are over 20 is the Bruichladdich Blackheart 4.1.
Oh yeah, that was one of the earliest 23-year-olds I ever got to taste. And I love that 4.1 and the 5.1. I haven't had any of the newer ones after 5.1, but the 4 and 5 are really good.
Yeah, no, the 4.1 is probably my favorite whiskey ever. It's unbelievable. And that was 23 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's 23.
Mm-hmm.
It is funny because I'm surprised they don't tout their age as much as they do. Like, if you're looking for the Bruichladdich, you know it's a 4.1, you know it's Black Arts, but you usually don't know the age. And I had to do some digging to really find out it was 23 years. And I'm thinking, you guys are crazy not to put that all over the bottle because people would buy it probably more if they knew it was 23 years old, you know?
Yeah, right.
They
do the vintage, the year vintage, kind of like Ball-Blair used to do before they switched it up. That's a real disappointment, by the way. I like the vintage years that Ball-Blair did, but yeah, that's kind of the way they approach the Bruichladdich thing. I know they're like 89 or 90 or something like that. Yeah,
the new Ball-Blair things. I haven't had any of the new ones yet, but I heard that it's completely different than the old school vintage, which I do love. And even the 99 vintage was awesome. It was like a 15-year.
Really, it's a bummer, man. I don't know, I don't know what their style is.
I'm not gonna knock until I have a bottle, but yeah, I mean, before I have one, I've heard kind of horror stories, but hopefully it's not as bad as I've been hearing.
Have you had, or has anybody else in the chat had any of the Bruichladdich like micro province bottles? Those are also vintage years. There's like, I think they have like a bourbon and I think like what is the other one? It's like a wine cask finish. There are these, it's like a whole series they were doing called Micro Province. I mean, they're not always super easy to get in the States, but have you had any of those?
I have not, and that's the funny thing about Bruichladdich. Let me pull up something real fast. Is it the Port Charlotte series, or is it straightforward?
No, it's straight Bruichladdich.
Okay, I'm just doing a little search on the side here. That's the hard thing about Bruichladdich / Port Charlotte is that I mean, the Octomore stuff you see readily available usually at most of the places where I live. You can easily find an Octomore, at least one or two for sale. Not to say they're great prices, but you can find them. But to find, and you can find the Black Art series usually pretty easily, but to find some of the other stuff, like, I'm trying to find it. The Bear Barley one is one I see on occasion, but I'm trying to find that one that's more of like where they have the number series. what is it called? There's the DNA series I've heard about. I'm trying to think of what it was. I think it was the Port Charlotte. The PC like 10. Before that, they had like PC numbers that were different from what I remember. You remember the name? You remember the name?
MRT and the PC, and like there's so many of them. Yeah.
On the Bruichladdich, when you're talking about the micro, do you remember what the name of it was? Like,
yeah, it's called Micro Province. So it's basically just all single cask. They do it in like batches of like a couple hundred bottles at a time.
Let me see if you can find it. Micro Province.
Yeah, I'll send it to you in a private chat. Maybe you can find it.
Have you seen it on a distiller at all?
No.
Oh, they do have one from 1991. Wow. They have
Yeah,
they have a Bruichladdich. It's a Micro Province Series 1991. 50.8%, 21 years old bourbon cask, but there's nobody that's tasted it yet.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
Are these newer ones that you're talking about?
I think they're well. I think they're all like 10 to 12 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, huh? What do you see them locally, or do you see them online?
No, I just heard about them, and that's why I was curious. I think it's that whole thing about like there's this theory that localized, like hyper local barleys have all this distinct flavor, and Bruichladdich all about that. Like they're on the whole train about hyper local. This barley was grown here at this day, and this imparts a different flavor. I know there's like some dissension about whether or not this local barley stuff is actually has a serious flavor impact, but Bruichladdich, of course, seems to be all about it. And
well, if you remember, remember the Lafroig 2015 Carriages, not the 15-year-old one, but the 2015 Carriages. That one had that specialized barley in it, and that's what made it so different and so good, I think. So I think there is something to it. Like I haven't had the Bear barley or some of their newer stuff, but the Ila barley versus the Scarlish barley and stuff like that, I do notice like a huge taste difference. But do I like one more than the other? That's where it gets kind of, I guess, depends on what you're in the mood for. If you just want a good peated whiskey, but
right,
that's the catch. It's like it's how much in the weeds do you want to go?
Right, exactly.
But yeah, I'll have to keep my eye out. I don't see anything on the Micro Provenance. But see, that's the weird thing about Bruichladdich. It's one of those distilleries, as far as at least in Maryland, it's extremely hard to find anything outside of the classic, maybe a 10, like a classic 10. A regular Port Charlotte, a Ila barley, or a Scottish barley, and that's about it. They have, but the funny thing is, Bruichladdich has got probably one of the most wide spectrum of offerings you could find.
Most definitely,
because they have the Octomore, they have the Port Charlotte, they have the regular Bruichladdich series, and they have all these like numbered like they have a PC1, a PC2, all the way up to 10, and they have all these other offerings. And I rarely ever see any of them. It's something I would have to dig up online, I think, if I ever had to order something. For
sure. So we just hit the 11 hour, and so I actually got to wrap things up and head off, man. But
yeah, same here, pretty much.
It's been super fun chatting, and like as we were saying earlier, we're gonna do this every week. We're gonna do the Telex Malt Show, so hope folks are interested in continuing to come hang out with us on Tuesday nights. I'll be doing a pre-show happy hour on my channel, so do check that out. We'll be going like 8:30 to 9, and then we'll head over here to keep the chat going. So
yeah, I appreciate it. And definitely check out the short reviews if you don't mind. Let me know what you think.
Yeah, for sure.
If you think it's like a good deal or bad, or if I'm crazy, or if I'm on the mark. I'm just curious. There's not really any right or wrong answers on these, but I do like to know if people get kind of the same notes or at least the same quality experience from a dram, if I rate it high versus low, that kind of thing. So
for sure.
Feedback is definitely welcome.
I'll definitely be checking that out because I know you and I had some different takes on the Caol Ila 18, but not too different. We'll see. But and until next week, I'll catch you next week, and good to hang out with Telex, and good to chat with everybody as usual. Everybody be good, stay safe, all that this week. I'll catch you guys next Tuesday.
I appreciate it, man. I'll see you.
Sláinte.
Anyway, yeah, I'd like to know what people think about some of the, give me some feedback, reviews, and what you guys think of some of the ones I've done already. I've got about, of the new series of the new short reviews, I've done about 10, thinking so far, and I've tried to cover lots of different distilleries from Lefroy to Bunnahabhain, Kilchoman, Kilkerran, Ardbeg. I think I've even done Caol Ila, and trying to hit a bunch of different ones, even a Glenlivet in there. So let me know if you guys liked it or not. Stranger and Stranger is another one. Yep. Uh-oh. I'm going back in some of the comments here, catching up a little bit. What did you think of the Caol Ila 18th from Steven? I loved it, man. Yeah, go and check out the short review I did. It's only like a 8-9 minute video. I went over the notes a couple times. I even did it when I did this this review earlier. It's almost perfect. I can't really knock it for much. And I've heard it's actually better than the 25. I don't know if it's as good as your 35, and I'm very jealous. But it's a 4.75 out of 5. I'll just tell you that. But if you want all the notes I got out of it, definitely check out the short review. It's top notch, I have to say. Fumble snap by the. Oh wow. A+++. Catching up on some of these. Never release a bad bottle ever. Which one are you talking about there, Richie? I'm just curious. Which bottle has never been a bad release? When are you going to open that Caol Ila 35 there, Steven? I'm curious. This one's really good, though. Oh, I'm on the Phenomenology, which is also really, really good. But yeah, I'm going to have to save a little bit of this on the side and have some more experiences with that. See how that goes. Well, I really appreciate you guys hanging out, and I unfortunately do have to work tomorrow, so I've got to call it a day. But hopefully we can get together before next Tuesday, maybe for a little, at least a couple short reviews. If I'm lucky. If not, then definitely next Tuesday I'll be doing a new one. Not quite sure which one yet. Depends on what I can get my hands on before next Tuesday. But definitely will be coming with something good, or at least decent, hopefully. You never know, though. Sometimes I'll just pull something out, and it might not rate that well, but it'll still be an experience and hopefully some knowledge for people to not make the same mistakes I've made in some of the bottles that I might pick up just for the hell of it. So we will see. I'll open the 22 Fischl cast strength bottle before the 35. Oh man, definitely a 22 Fischl cast strength. Oh, but that's really good too. You're killing me, man. You're killing me. But this, I'll see if I can share the wealth a little bit. We'll see how it goes on the old tastings. Figure out something on the side, maybe. See how it goes. Well, thanks for stopping by, guys. We'll see you on the, if not before next Tuesday, definitely next Tuesday. And thanks for hanging out and having some sips. Really good stuff here. And we'll be doing it again soon.